Have you ever wondered what it takes to be famous? Now, some have gone to the extent of sacrificing their family members. Some have sacrificed their families. Some have even sacrificed their own souls. Some have even gone to the extent of forming blood covenants just for them to be famous. But what if I told you that you can become famous but not doing any of the above, right? Interesting, isn't it? Now, in this episode, we are going to discuss the 4 fundamental principles that are going to allow you to be famous without doing anything wrong, but rather by doing things that are right. Now, for you to find out more, stick around. Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, today our topic says that if you want to be famous, you have to follow these 4 principles, right? And that is what we are going to be talking about today. Now, without wasting further time, let us jump straight into it and open our Bibles to the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 17, right? And it reads as follows.
And the fame of David went out into all lands, and the Lord brought the fear of him upon all nations.
Now, before we come to this point, right, where the Bible is telling us that now David, his fame was going across all the land and the people feared him. Before we get to this point, right, let us just take it a big backwards, right? Now, when we take it a bit backwards, we now realize that Saul was the king. But how did Saul lose his kingship? And now that David is now being appointed as king, right? So let us just take it a backwards to the previous episode where we talked about don't be desperate for certain things, guys. And we say don't be desperate for certain things, right? For you, rather be aligned with the source, because if you are aligned with the source, you will get the benefits of being aligned with the source, guys. And we talked about that on the previous episode, but I'm not going to preempt it on this episode. So rather, here is a preview in case you missed that episode. Seek ye first the kingdom. Look for the source and not the beneficiaries of the source. Don't allow the enemy to come and take away your identity. Rejoice in the Lord. Always, again, I say, the one that started the good work in you will not stop until it is finished. So make sure you go and watch that episode, guys, as I've left the link in that episode so that you can be able to go and watch it before you come to this episode, because they will make sense when you watch the previous one, right? But for today, guys, let us just go to 1 Chronicles chapter 2. Before we get to the fame of David, let us go to 1 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 2. Now, just keep in mind what our topic says. That it says that if you want to be famous, follow these principles, right? So just keep that in mind as we read and as we go along with our episode for today. So 1 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 2 then says,
And David perceived that the Lord had confirmed him king over Israel, for his kingdom was lifted up on high because of his people Israel.
David perceived that the Lord had made him king over Israel. Now, this then brings us to point number 1, or rather, principle number 1, which then says that you need to change your mindset. Guys, you need to change your mindset, right? For you to become famous, or for you to move from where you are right now to become this person that you aspire to be. Now, it might not be you becoming famous, but whatever goal that it is that you have in your life, right? Whatever things that you aspire to have, for you to get to that point, you need to change your mindset, right? For David to become king, guys, it says that, and then he perceived that the Lord, no one told him, guys, just keep those things in mind. It was not a prophet that came to him at that particular time and told him that, you know what, now you can then take over the reins of the king and all of that, guys. No one came and told him that, but rather he perceived for himself in his own mind. So today I want to ask you the question, what is it that you perceive yourself to be, right? For you to reach your goals, for you to reach where you want to go in life, I want you to understand that you need to change your mindset, right? Whatever mindset that you might have right now, if you're thinking so poorly of yourself, you need to change that mindset, right? You need to change from that scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, right? For you to get to the top, or for you to get to the goals that you have set for yourself in your life, change your mindset. And that is what point number 1 goes. So I'm still asking the question again, what is it that you perceive yourself to be? today.
Some perceive that they will never have money and will never be able to afford the luxuries that they want, and that fortune only favors others and not themselves.
Some have perceived that they don't deserve to have money. Some have perceived that, you know what, we just deserve to be poor. And they have this scarcity mindset, right? And I want to tell you today that you need to change that mindset, right? God even says silver and gold belongs to me. So for you to have that mindset to say, you know what, I don't think money and the luxuries belong to me, guys, you need to change that mindset, right? For that mindset is not what God gave you, right? For God says silver and gold belongs to me. So therefore, guys, just keep in mind, don't keep that mindset of saying, you know what, only fortune favors others and fortune does not favor me.
Some perceive that they will never get high grades in school and that they're just average learners.
Some perceive and have a mindset that, you know what, we are not the smart kids, right? And you think into yourself and you see other people performing and you see other people getting the high marks and the high grades, and you think into yourself, you know what, I think that is just for them, right? These people were born with something that is special. But as for me, I don't think that is for me. I'm just but a mediocre person and I belong on the lower grades, you know, as long as I'm just making it through and getting just that pass mark for me to be able to go on to the next level or to the next grade, right? But I want to tell you today, you have to change that mindset, right? That mindset is not what God wants for you, right? For God says that you shall be a head and not a tail. But then how do you become a head when you are just performing on a mediocre level, guys? How do you become a head when all your results are just showing that you are just but an average person, performing just to pass, performing just to get the pass mark so that you can go to the next grade, guys? And I want to tell you, you have to change that mindset today. You have to change that mindset. But I'm still asking the question once again, what is it that you perceive yourself to be today?
Some perceive that having a good relationship is not for them, but rather only toxic and abusive relationships are for them.
Some have a mindset to think that, you know what, I think that the relationships that I deserve in my life is just to have abusive relationships. It's just for me to have toxic relationships. It's just for me to always get relationships that are always bad for my health, bad for my mental health, bad for my emotional health, bad for my spiritual health. And you think those are the relationships that are meant for you. I want to tell you today, you have to change that mindset. Have you not heard what Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7 says? It says that as a man thinketh, so is he. So if you perceive and you constantly think to yourself that, you know what, I deserve toxic relationship, I deserve abusive relationships, just keep in mind, guys, that you are going to get those relationships, because the Bible is clear here. It says that as you think, so you become, right? So as you think, you are attracting these things to you, guys. If you're thinking to yourself that money does not belong to me, and money and all those fortune and luxuries, they belong to other people and they don't belong to me, guys, I'm telling you today that as you think, you become. And as you become, remember, now you're thinking these things don't belong to me. Now you become thinking poorly, and you're not thinking with an abundance mindset, and you're thinking with a scarcity mindset, guys. I'm telling you today, you are going to become that person. And then those things that you're continuously thinking about, those things are going to become your reality. So, right, if you don't change your mindset, guys, if you don't change how you think towards yourself, you are going to attract toxic relationships, the abusive relationships, as well as a lack of money and all these other things, performing at a mediocre level. Because as you think, you become. That's what Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7 says. So just keep those things in mind, guys. How therefore can you even perceive yourself to be this famous and great person if you are constantly thinking from a lack point of view, if you're constantly thinking from a scarcity point of view? Do you think that famous people, do you think that people who are up there, people who you aspire to get to the level one day, do you think that they are operating on a scarcity mindset, guys? No, guys, they are not operating on that mindset. And I want to tell you today, change that mindset, change the way you think, right? Don't just think about negative words and just think to yourself, you know what, this is the end for me. This is how I'm going to live my life, with a scarcity, with no love, with no wealth, with nothing like that. No, guys, that is not how you should be thinking. One might then ask, okay, so I don't want to be thinking about these things, right? So then how do I think about the things that I want? Now just keep in mind, Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7. Guys, now I just want you to move with me. Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7. Now listen very closely, right? Proverbs 23 verse 7 then says, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? So I want you to start thinking about the things that you want, right? Start thinking about the things that you want, right? And don't think about the things that you don't want, right? Start focusing your mind on the things that you want. Now, you don't have to worry about how am I going to get these things. No. That is not for you to figure out. That is not for you to figure out. That is for God to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this happen, right? That is for God to make that happen. But for you, I want you to focus your mind on that which you want to achieve, right? Now, as you start in the beginning, right? As you start this process, in the beginning, as you try and think about the things that you want, negative thoughts are going to come in, but you have the power to kick them out and reject them in your mind, guys. You have the power to do that, right? So as the negative thoughts come, reject them and replace them with the things that you actually want, and always constantly think about those things. Now, as the episode goes on, we are going to discuss further on how as well you can continue to do that. So make sure that you stick around to find out more. But as for this point, guys, I just want you to keep in mind, just keep and focus your mind mainly on what it is that you want, and don't focus on what it is that you don't want. Now, one thing that I like about David, not only did he perceive that he already had the kingdom, not only did he set his mind on the kingdom, but rather he started acting as well as he was the king, right? And immediately he started taking on the king duties, which brings us to point number 2. Point number 2 then says, start acting as if you already have what you asked for. Now, when you have set your mind on what it is that you want in life, right, and you have prayed about it and you have let God know what it is that you want, right, now here is the key, guys, why we say that once you have requested these things, right, start acting as if you already have them. Now, if we take our Bibles to Mark chapter 11 verse 24, Jesus, in speaking to them, he says that whatever it is that you desire in life, whatever it is that you seek for, whatever it is that you want, when you pray, believe that you have these things and you shall receive them. Which is why in point number 2, guys, we say that believe that you have received these things. Start acting as if you have received these things. For this is what Mark chapter 11 says. It says that when you pray, believe that you have received these things, right? So do not just pray and say you and start worrying about these things and start thinking to yourself, how am I going to get these things? How am I going to move from this point to that point? No, guys, that is not for you to discover, right? But when you pray, believe immediately when you say amen. Believe that you have received these things, right? Don't start worrying and start thinking to yourself, okay, what is the next step now? Now that I've prayed, what should I do? No, guys, that is not what you should be doing. But immediately when you say amen, believe that you have received these things. So don't find yourself worried about, okay, how am I going to do this and all of that, guys. No, guys, don't do that. That is why when we take our Bibles to Isaiah chapter 55 verse 9, Bible says that for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above your ways, and so are my thoughts above your thoughts. This is God who's speaking to you today. So you might think to yourself and think, okay, how am I going to do this, guys? You are not going to come up with a plan. For God says, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above your ways. So no matter what thinking you might try and do and trying to figure out how am I going to do this, guys, God says, for as high. Guys, just think about that. Look at the heavens. Look how high the heavens are. And God says, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above your ways, right? So believe when you pray, believe that whatever it is that you have prayed for, start acting as if you have already received what it is that you prayed for. Don't find yourself now thinking to yourself and being worried and all of that. No, guys, don't find yourself in that situation, but believe, for God says, as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above your ways. So when you have made your request known unto God, believe that he has answered your prayer. Don't find yourself getting worried, but believe that God has answered your prayer, right? This is what we find in Mark chapter 11 and Isaiah chapter 55, where God then says, "For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways above your ways." Now, if you're listening to this message via YouTube and not the podcast, just keep in mind that you are now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, as well as on Amazon Music. And you can be sure to follow us on any of those 6 different platforms. Now, as we are coming to point number 3, we then take our Bibles to verse 8, right? First Chronicles chapter 14, verse 8. And then it reads as follows.
And when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went out to seek David, and David heard of it and went out against them.
Now, this then brings us to point number 3. Point number 3 then says that there are people who will try and discourage you and bring you down. Now, there are people, once they hear that you have set your mind right, once they hear that you have now set your goals in order, once they hear that your mindset is now in the right place, there are people who will come and try and bring you down. Now, the Philistines did not wait for David to be king for 10 years or 15 years or 5 months or all of that. It says that when they heard that David was now appointed king over all Israel, immediately they decided that, you know what, we are going to attack David. Immediately, when they heard that David was now made king over all Israel. Listen, there are people, when they hear immediately that you are now going up in life, immediately when they hear that now you have got that promotion, immediately when they hear that now you are in that good relationship, immediately when they hear that now your finances are correct, immediately when they hear that your relationship with God is going correct, immediately when they hear all these things, immediately that's when they will try and come and attack you, right? They will not give you a chance, because they know if you uproot a plant when it is still a seed. You see, when you plant a tree, it is easy to destroy it when it's still just but a seed, guys. But the moment it grows into a full-blown tree, now you need an axe, now you need all this kind of tools to bring it down. So immediately they know that is where they can bring you down. And this is the same principles that the Philistines brought to David. It says that immediately when they heard that David was now king over Israel, then they decided that, you know what, we are going to bring him down. But little did they know. Now, when we take our Bibles to verse 10 then says, David then comes to a point and he says, you know what, this battle is not mine. This battle is not for me to fight. And David goes and inquires of the Lord, and God tells him, you know what, go forward, for the battle I have already given these Philistines into your hands. Guys, when it comes to life, remember, when people come against you in life, do not try and fight these people, right? Do not try and think to yourself, okay, I think I can fight them, I think I have the power. No, guys, go and inquire from the Lord, right? For God is the one that is going to deal with the Philistines in your life. I don't know what people you have faced in your life. People that have tried to discourage you. People that have tried to bring you down. I don't know what it is that you have faced in your life. But I want to tell you today, immediately when they come to you, you as well immediately inquire of the Lord, right? Do not try and say, you know what, I think I'm going to fight them with my own power. No, guys, don't do that. But rather, go back to the Father, go back to God and inquire of God and tell him, God, this is beyond me. This is beyond my hands. Therefore, may you take over. And I'm telling you today, little did they know. Little did they know. That's why David says in Psalm chapter 121, verse 1 to 2, he then says that my help cometh from the Lord. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains. Whence my help cometh from? My help comes from the Lord, guys. So as you go on about your life, remember, your help is not going to come from a bank. Your help is not going to come from a relative, but your help is going to come from the Lord. And I want you to keep those things in mind, guys. Don't try and fight them hand to hand and try to say, you know what, I think I'm going to figure this out on my own. No, guys. Why would you want to do that when God is there to fight your battle? Now, as we are about to conclude, let us take our Bibles to verse 15, right? First Chronicles chapter 14, verse 15, where we then read, and it says,
And it shall be, when thou shalt hear a sound of going in the tops of the mulberry trees, that then thou shalt go out to battle. For God is gone forth before thee to smite the host of the Philistines.
Now, this then brings us to point number 4. Point number 4 then says that God has already won the battle before you have even gone there. Now, the point that I just want us to get from this, guys, is that when God is on your side, God does not operate on the same level with the enemy, right? God does not operate on that same level with the enemy, but God operates on a higher level. God operates from a victory point of view. Now, when God is speaking to David, he says that when you hear on the top of the mulberry trees of the going of the troops, right, then you will know that God has gone forth before you to smite the armies of the Philistines. Then after God has gone, then you can follow to collect the spoils, guys. So when you go into battle, I want you to go in with the mindset that God has already gone before you. But how does God go before you? If you inquire of the Lord. If you don't inquire of the Lord, guys, you are going to meet the Philistines full on, head on, and they are going to be ready to devour you. But if you inquire of the Lord, God then says, I, the Lord, have gone forth to destroy the Philistines. Right? And he's speaking to David. So when David and his army just follow behind, God has already gone in front of them, and he has already destroyed the armies of the Philistines. So what Philistines are you facing today? I want to ask you today, what Philistines have you faced? What Philistines have told you today that you cannot achieve your goals? What Philistines have told you today that you know what, you come from a family, our family background, people like us, we can never reach the stars. People like us, we can never reach to the top. I want to ask you today, what Philistines are you facing in your life? Some have told you that you know what, according to finances, you can never make it. According to our background, you can never make it. According to certain cases, you can never make it. But I wanted to tell you today, inquire of the Lord. For when you inquire of the Lord, guys, it is not you who fights, but it is God who goes before you. When God has gone before you, he then destroys all the enemies. So whatever it is that you are facing today, God says nothing that you face is meant to destroy you. Now, if we take our Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 18, God in speaking to them, he then says that, you know what, nothing, no temptation that is coming to you is meant to overpower you or destroy you, but rather in every temptation, God says that you will be able to bear it, you will be able to overcome it. And he says that as well, I will make a way that you will be able to overcome these temptations. So whatever it is that comes your way, guys, whatever it is that you are facing head on today, I want to tell you, God has already made a way for you. Whatever things have told you, people have told you, and they say, you know what, you can't change your mindset. You can't change the way you think. I want to tell you today, you seeing this video, it is proof to you that you can change your mindset. You can change the way you think. You can attain anything you want. You can attain the goals that you have set upon yourself. But you have to inquire of the Lord, guys. Don't try and do things on your own. Don't even try to find yourself in that position where you say, I am going to figure these things out on my own. No, guys, don't do that. But rather, go back to the source. Inquire of God and ask God, God, how am I going to do this thing? And God is going to show you a way. God will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will never leave you alone for the enemy to devour you. When you inquire of God, God is not a man that he should lie, that he should say, I will be with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. For God to lie, no, guys, it is not possible. I refuse. It is not possible for God to lie to you, guys. I want to tell you today. So when you inquire of the Lord, believe that your prayer has been answered, guys. And that is the end of our 4 principles, or rather our 4 points that we're talking about today, guys. So just keep those things in mind as we have come to the conclusion of our topic for today. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up. Now, in conclusion, we're just going to do a recap of what we talked about. Point number 1. Point number 1, we say that you have to change your mindset, guys. You have to change the way you think. Start focusing mainly on what you want and don't focus on the things that you don't want. And you have the power, guys, to control the type of thoughts that you have. You have the power to kick out certain thoughts and reject them as they come. And in the beginning, guys, like we said, certain thoughts are going to come and tell you how you're not going to be able to achieve those things. But it is not for you to try and figure out how you're going to attain those things. But rather, remember, you can change your mindset and you can be able to achieve what it is that you want. Point number 2. Point number 2, we then said that start acting as if you already have what it is that you asked for, right? So when you pray, like we said in Mark chapter 11, When you pray, believe that God has already answered your prayer. Believe that God has already answered what it is that you've requested from Him, right? Believe, and that is the key. When you ask and you come to your Father, Jesus says, believe. That is the key, guys. So as you have asked from God, believe and start acting like God has already answered your prayer. Point number three. Point number three, we then said, there are people who will try to discourage you and bring you down. Just at the root, when you have started to change your mindset, when you have started to change the way you think, when you have started to go for your goals and the things that you want in life, there are people who will try and bring you down. But remember, it is not for you to try and say, I'm going to fight them. I'm going to show them that, I'm good in this. No, guys, it is not for you to do that, but rather inquire of the Lord. Go back to God and remember, the battle is not yours, but rather the battle belongs to God. Point number four. Point number four, we then said, God has already won the battle before you even go there. So when you go out in battle, guys, whenever you face some Philistines in your life, remember, when you inquire of God, God has already dealt with them, and nothing that is coming your way is meant to destroy you, right? Even though God had already gone before David, he still says, go to war again, because God had already dealt with the hard part, and David was just left with the easy part. So when certain things come your way and you inquire of God, remember, God has already given you the power to conquer those things, for God has already dealt with the hard stuff, and He says, now these are just the spoils. So take care of the spoils. And God says there's nothing that is meant to consume you, but in everything He has provided a way that you may pay it. And that is what we get from our whole message. Now, in the end, guys, and we take our Bibles to verse 17 that we read in the beginning of the episode, then says that, and the Lord brought the fear of Him upon all nations, and the fame of David. It says that in the fame of David, it says that, and God brought the fear of Him upon all nations. As David was becoming famous, it was not him who went and told people, fear me, I am now famous, fear me, for all of this is happening to me, guys. No, he didn't do that, but it was God Himself. So when you then get to this point where you have now succeeded, when you have now become to the top, remember to humble yourself. It is not for you to go around and tell people that, you know what, this is where I am, I've done this is what, I've conquered these people, I've done all of this. No, guys. It is not for you to do that, but rather it is God Himself that is going to spread the word, not David. David did not spread the word, but it says it was God Himself that spread the word of David's fear. And I just want you to keep those things in mind. As we conclude, remember, always remain humble, and God is the one that will lift you up. That is the end of our message for today. May God